Hello, I'm Jeff Potter, Principal Policy Advisor at the National Transport Commission. I'm part of the team working on the review of the Heavy Vehicle National Law, the first review of its kind since the law commenced in February of 2014. The goal of this review is to deliver a modern, outcome-focused law for regulating heavy vehicle transport in Australia. We're currently consulting on a realistic set of policy options for the future law. This short video will cover the main options affecting livestock carriers. Fatigue is a key risk to safety. Driving a heavy vehicle while fatigued will increase the risk of a crash. It's a threat to the overall public safety, and over time fatigue may impact the physical and mental well-being of the driver. The susceptibility of heavy vehicle drivers is highly dependent on the nature of their job and the risks associated with night driving, shift work, especially early shifts, night shifts, and backward shift rotations. In the current Heavy Vehicle National Law, fatigue management has been found to be highly prescriptive, overly administrative, and difficult to understand. It's also inflexible and applies strict work and rest rules to drivers of fatigue-regulated heavy vehicles, without accounting for the varied risks and needs across operators, tasks, and regions. It's identified that fatigue management rules vary based on the type of heavy vehicle and the distance from its base, even though fatigue risk depends on the driver and how rested they are. Throughout the HVNL review, it's been identified that there are opportunities to improve the approach to fatigue management, and there is a need for a new approach that better aligns fatigue management with fatigue risk, makes managing fatigue simpler, and delivers flexibility to drivers and to operators. Currently, the Heavy Vehicle National Law imposes a primary duty on chain of responsibility parties to ensure the safety of transport activities, so far as is reasonably practicable. During consultation, we heard there was broad support for maintaining the primary duty on the future HVNL. However, several problems were identified, and in the consultation risks, we've proposed a number of options to improve the primary duty so that it better delivers safety and productivity benefits to industry and the community. The first problem was that the current list of chain of responsibility parties doesn't reflect the current heavy vehicle supply chain and doesn't hold some critical parties accountable for safety. In this slide, the green and blue figures in the middle represent parties that are currently caught in the primary duty. So if you're not an employer of a driver, a prime contractor, an operator, part of loading staff, a consignor or consignee, a scheduler, that means you're not currently caught by this primary duty. What is being considered is to expand the application of the primary duty to all parties who influence the safety of transport activities relating to heavy vehicles. This is a very broad category. It could capture heavy vehicle repairers, stevedores, freight forwarders, depot facility managers, people preparing livestock for transit, and many others. This is a significant change, and it is really important that we get feedback from all of the affected stakeholders. The second problem identified during consultation was that the primary duty is too vague on exactly what is required of parties to comply. The law is clear that chain of responsibility parties shouldn't cause drivers to speed or drive while fatigued, but other risks, such as those relating to driver competency and driver fitness for duty, are not called out. For this reason, we're considering clarifying that the primary duty does cover both driver competency and fitness for duty. And the third issue raised by some stakeholders during consultation related to driver duties. Drivers are not caught by the primary duty because part of the purpose of the chain of responsibility provisions is to recognise that a number of on-road safety risks are actually caused by the behaviour of off-road parties. Drivers do, however, have a duty under work health and safety legislation to take reasonable care of their own safety and the safety of others. What is being considered is to take this work health and safety duty and implement it for drivers in the Heavy Vehicle National Law, which will give the National Heavy Vehicle Regulator power to enforce it. Of course, drivers must also comply with several other provisions of the Heavy Vehicle National Law, such as fatigue and safe vehicle provisions, as well as the road rules, and for the most severe safety breaches, drivers can be prosecuted under criminal law and liable for imprisonment. So there are real questions on whether establishing a driver safety duty is necessary for the future Heavy Vehicle National Law and whether it will change driver behaviour and improve safety outcomes for the community. We want to hear from the stakeholders about this, especially from drivers. So, how does this relate to you? Many new industry parties could have themselves covered by a primary duty to ensure the safety of transport activities. This could include parties who prepare livestock for transport, freight forwarders and their agents, depot and facility managers, and many others. The future HVNL aims to make things easier for truck drivers and operators in improving safety. And this means implementing more simple versions of the existing National Written Work Diary, or an approved electronic work diary may become the base requirement for higher fatigue risk drivers who do not make use of fatigue monitoring technologies. Additionally, options in the RIS describe the diaries that are easier to fill in or interpret because they're based on simplified work and rest hours and simpler accounting time requirements. For operators, the Heavy Vehicle National Law aims to recognise more flexible use of fatigue and distraction detection technologies, where operators who use this technology will not be unnecessarily constrained by prescriptive rules. Operators that meet a certain level of assurance could be able to operate under NHBR-approved schedules to suit their operations. For these operators, fatigue would be managed through a comprehensive safety management system certified under an insurance framework. We want to make it easy for you to get involved in the HVNL review. Submit your inquiries on the reform and we will address them in our future communications. As an alternative to a formal written submission, you can send in your short form feedback on topics of interest or relevance to you. Visit hvnlreview.ntc.gov.au and select options for a future law across the top banner. Tell us which options you prefer and any other feedback you think we need to consider. Your input will be used to inform and shape policy options for consideration by ministers next year. Thank you for your attention.